Namaste everyone, I am your co-host Shawnee ma'am. Welcome to your favorite learning channel. The topic for today's video is cell theory. So today under this topic we would see who discovered cell theory or who proposed cell theory and who modified this cell theory, what are the postulates of cell theory, and we would also understand the exceptions of cell theory. So let's begin. So to begin with, there were two scientists who proposed this cell theory. One was the scientist by name Matthias Jacob Schleiden. Okay. So he was a German botanist who in the year 1838 observed that, what did he observe? He observed that all plants are composed of cells of various types, okay, and these cells of various types they further form, that is the cells of different types further they form different types of what? Tissues. This is what he observed, that is Matthias Schleiden observed this. Then there was another scientist by the name Theodor Schwann. He was also a German scientist. He was a German zoologist, and he in the year 1839 studied that all the animals and plants, all animals as well as the plants, okay, they are made of what? They are made of cells. This is what he studied, and both the scientists, that is both of the scientists, they combined their findings. What did they do? They combined their findings and they proposed, by combining these findings by Schleiden and Schwann, the scientists proposed this famous cell theory. Okay. So Schleiden and Schwann combined their findings and they proposed cell theory. Okay. So according to cell theory, let's see what does cell theory say. So first it says that all living organisms, that is plants and animals, are composed of cells, and the cells may be unicellular or multicellular. These cells may be unicellular or it can also be multicellular. Then the cell theory also says that the cell is the basic structural, and functional unit of life. Okay. Then it also says that a cell has What does it have? Cell has a mass of protoplasm with a nucleus. Okay, and it also says that new cells are formed. New cells are formed. How are they formed? They are formed by a process similar to crystal formation. They are formed by a process that is similar to what? Which is similar to crystal formation. So this is what the findings or this is what the cell theory says. Okay. So now this cell theory was further modified. Cell theory was again modified. Okay. These are the things that cell theory already told, and these were the findings of both Schleiden and Schwann. But then this cell theory was further modified. And who modified this cell theory? It was modified by Rudolf Virchow. Okay, in the year 1858. And he gave an idea that new cells are formed from. His idea was new cells were formed from pre-existing cells. Okay. So the main features of the cell theory are, now let's enlist the main features. So let's see the main features of cell theory. Okay. So what are the main features? It says that all living organisms that is, for example, plants and animals are composed of cells. Okay, and all cells arise from what? They arise from pre-existing cells that are of same kind. And how do they arise? By the process of which process? By the process of cell division. So new cells are formed from pre-existing cells that are of same kind, and they are formed by the process of cell division. Okay. So Virchow, what did he do? Virchow encapsulated his work in the epigram, which is known as Omnis Cellula. Okay. Then what is the next feature? The next feature is the chemical composition and metabolism. The chemical composition as well as the metabolism in all cells, in all the cells, is basically how? It's basically alike. Okay. So, however, there are few exceptions to cell theory. It includes virus. Okay. So, we would consider the exceptions now. So, we can say that there is an exception to cell theory. It includes virus which does not have protoplasm and nucleus. Then there is bacteria and blue-green algae which do not have nuclear membrane. So, with the discovery of the electron microscope in the year 1940, it was possible to observe and understand the complex structures of cell and its various organelles. Okay. So, now let's enlist some of the exceptions. Okay. So, what are the exceptions? Exceptions to what? Exceptions to cell theory. Let's see what are the exceptions. I just now mentioned that one of the exceptions to cell theory is viruses. Okay. They are exception to cell theory. Viruses are exception to cell theory because they lack protoplasm. They lack protoplasm, which is the essential part of the cell. Okay. Then the next exception we could consider is bacteria and the blue-green algae or cyanobacteria. Okay, they are also exceptions to cell theory as they lack well organized nucleus. Okay. Then there are some of the protozoans. Okay. Some protozoans, we could include them as exceptions. Then the xenocytic hyphae of some fungi like rhizopus have undivided mass of protoplasm. Okay, then this xenocytic hyphae of some fungi, for example, here we would consider rhizopus. They have, what do they have? They have undivided mass of protoplasm. There is undivided mass of protoplasm with many nuclei. With many nuclei that are scattered. We can say that remain scattered. Okay. Then we would also consider RBCs here, that is red blood cells. Okay. Red blood cells or RBCs and sieve tube cells. Sieve tube cells because they are without nuclei. Okay. So these are some of the exceptions to cell theory. Okay. Now let's quickly revise the things that we have covered today. So we discussed about cell theory in detail, and we now know that the cell theory was actually proposed by two scientists. So what happened is, there were two scientists. One is Matthias Jakob Schleiden, who was a German botanist, and he observed that all plants are composed of cells, and these different types of cells further form different types of tissues. Then there was another scientist, that is Theodor Schwann, who was a German zoologist, and he studied that all animals and plants are made up of cells. Further, both of these scientists, they combined their findings and they proposed this famous cell theory. So according to cell theory, all the living organisms are composed of cells, and these cells can be either unicellular or multicellular. Then the cell theory also says that cell is the basic structural as well as the functional unit of life, and cell has a mass of protoplasm with a nucleus, and new cells are formed by the process which is similar to the process of crystal formation. Further, this cell theory proposed by Schleiden and Schwann was modified by the scientist Rudolf Virchow. And his idea was that the new cells are formed from the pre-existing cells. This was his idea that he proposed, and this is what the modification was to the previous cell theory. Okay, so now let's see what are the main features of cell theory. So the main features are that all the living organisms are composed of cells, and all cells arise from pre-existing cells that are of same kind, and they arise from the process of cell division. Then Virchow encapsulated his work in the epigraph called Omnis Cellulae Cellula. The other main feature of cell theory is that the chemical composition as well as the metabolism in all cells are alike. Okay. Then there are also few exceptions to this cell theory. So one is viruses. So viruses are exception because they lack protoplasm. Then there are bacteria and cyanobacteria, which are also known as blue-green algae, that lack well-organized nucleus. Then there are some protozoans as well. Then the cenocytic hyphae of certain fungi, for example rhizopus, they have undivided mass of protoplasm with many nuclei, and these nuclei remain scattered. Then there are red blood cells or RBCs and sieve tube cells that are present without nuclei. Okay, so these are few of the exceptions to cell theory. So I hope you all would have got some great insights by watching today's video. Please do not forget to like and share the video. Till then, thank you for watching.